Hello, everyone, and I would like to invite you to this week's Friday Reflections. I'm Pastor Scott Sussler, one of the pastors here at Trinity Lutheran Church, and I welcome all of you to this time we have together. Just a couple of upcoming items to remind you of before we get into today's devotion. This coming Sunday is the last day for the Super Bowl canned collection for the Lilburn Co-op, and there are boxes that are right inside the front doors where those items are being collected. I noticed there were a lot of items yesterday when I walked by that, so that's good to see. But again, that goes until this coming Sunday, so you can either bring them in during the week or bring them in on Sunday at worship and drop those off. For the canned good donations, if you would like to make a monetary donation, you can send a check to the church office. Just make sure it's designated or somehow identified as for ELCA World Hunger or the Lilburn Co-op, which both of them are beneficiaries of this Super Bowl Feed the Hungry drive. And we will get those to the appropriate places as well. So that's coming up this coming Sunday. Also a reminder that for the Sundays in February, our love offering is for the Partnership Against Domestic Violence that works to deal with domestic violence in our area. So please make note of that. And again, your donations, your monetary donations can be made to the church office or through the offerings. Just make sure you designate it for that so that they know that it goes toward that. Also, this Sunday, I understand that there used to be a big chili cook-off here for the Super Bowl, which unfortunately we can't do in person, but we're going to give you an opportunity to still do it at home. So there is a Super Bowl chili cook-off where you can share your favorite recipe and also a picture of you and your favorite or your chili that you make on Instagram or Facebook by going to the hashtag that is found in your weekly e-news. So if you look at your weekly e-news that come to you, you'll see the information in there. And you can do that on Sunday as part of the Super Bowl as well. And then, of course, remember the following Sunday on the 14th on Valentine's Day, we're going to be doing the vow renewal in the afternoon at 5 o'clock, a Zoom, to renew our vows with our partners in relationship. So please make sure that you follow that information as well. All of this and many other things, please make sure to follow your weekly announcements. Lots of good stuff still happening. Despite the pandemic. So as I was thinking about my devotion or message for today, I was thinking about the Super Bowl and how I could tie something in with that, because that's the big thing coming up here in a couple of days. And I started thinking about my own life in sports. I grew up playing sports. I love sports. Sports have been a part of my life probably every day, of my life. Sports were a big part of my family, so I learned that from my dad, from my brothers, from my sisters, from my in-laws. There was always some kind of sporting event going on at family gatherings or around town or in the neighborhood, and I love to be a part, of all of that. And as I was reflecting on that, I was reminded, though, that one of the things I've had to deal with in my life is this competitive spirit that I got, and a lot of that comes from sports. I can be very, very competitive, and you may find that at times that when I'm challenged or when I feel like there's a competition, that will sort of sometimes rise to the top for me without me even being aware of it. And it's just a part of who I am. I have this sort of that competitive spirit and passion for sports. And don't get me wrong, that's been very helpful to me in my life. I've learned a lot of things from sports. I've learned, dedication and hard work and working with a team and working at goals. All of those things have helped me later on in my life. I've also had to learn how to deal with defeat, and that has helped me later on in my life. Actually, a lot of the things that I deal with as a pastor were things that I had to learn as a younger person in dealing in playing sports. And although I don't play competitive sports anymore, my last time was about 6 or 7 years ago in a basketball game where I broke my ankle, and I said, that's enough, I'm done. I still love sports, I love following them. And I can remember growing up watching Super Bowls. I probably haven't missed a Super Bowl since I was old enough to watch. And all the fun and the joy of being a part of that significant event. But as I thought about that, I thought, having a competitive spirit, having passions in life, is one of those things that can either be a good thing or it could be a bad thing, you know. Depending on how it's used and how it gets utilized probably is more important than anything else. And like I said, I shared with you, I grew up with a competitive spirit. I remember one particular instance when I was a senior in high school. I was one of the starting five on our basketball team. I was actually the starting point guard on the team. And we were a very good team. We had always done well, through the years, won championships and things like that. So I was fortunate to be with a bunch of good athletes. And I remember it was about mid-season, my senior year of the basketball season, and we started out really strong, but then we sort of tailed off. We're going through a little bit of a tough time. We weren't playing well. I wasn't playing well. And I was in a very small town, a little rural town. We had maybe one, maybe two stoplights. No McDonald's, no Burger King, no Subway, nothing like that. We had one gas station, one convenience store, a couple thousand people. That's as big of an area as I grew up in. And so everybody knew everybody's business. That was just the way it was. And sports were huge. So, everybody followed sports and everybody was involved in sports. And so my sister-in-law at the time was the bartender at the one tavern in town. And so, she would hear after the game all the complaints and all the things about the players and stuff like that. And I remember her one time after a particular game we didn't play well, talking about how people were questioning my ability to be the point guard, questioning my ability and the way I was playing in that. And I remember, man, that got me fired up. That got me mad. And the next game, I went out and scored the most points and had the best game I ever had. That's the kind of competitive spirit that we're talking about, and that's the kind of atmosphere that I grew up in. But several years back, I had an experience that sort of made me reevaluate all of this. And I had been invited by some parishioners at the church I was serving in Saginaw, Michigan at the time. I'd been invited by some parishioners to go to a Michigan State college football game. And not only a Michigan State college football game, but a Michigan State versus Ohio State college football game. Now, I'll go to a college football game no matter who's playing, but when it's with my beloved Buckeyes, then, I'm there. And so I was really excited and went with them to Spartan Stadium in East Lansing, Michigan. And, there's just something really different when you go into what I would consider the opposing team's stadium. And your team, the visiting team, is just beating them badly. And it's just an eerie feeling. I've been a part of that a couple of times. And so it was one of those days where Ohio State was playing great, Michigan State wasn't. They were beating them badly. And I'm sitting there, and I just started observing and looking at people. And I noticed, all these people, thousands of people, they're groaning and they're whining. They're standing up and pointing the finger at the refs, telling how terrible they are. Then they're standing up and pointing the finger at the coaches, saying how terrible they are. Then other people threatening they're never going to get season tickets again. And, just this frustration and this anger and this passion rose up. And as I was sitting there, as I was looking at this and sort of taking this all in, I thought, it occurred to me. It just hit me at that moment. It says, what would happen? What would happen if this kind of spirit, this kind of passion, this kind of anger was directed towards important things in life? What if this many people got fired up about poverty and people in need, or prejudices or inequalities in our world, or about domestic violence or abuse? What if this many people got this mad about those things instead of a college football game? And it dawned on me right then, and since then I've sort of went through this change that God, I believe, gifts us with passions, things that get us excited, the things that get our blood flowing. And how we use them becomes very important. And the question is, do we use them to help build up and make changes and use them in ways that God calls us to use them? Or do we just sort of use them for our own benefit and gratitude? I know a lot of my competitive spirit is about me feeling better, me winning, me being right, things like that. It's about me. But when I can use those in ways that God calls me to use them for important things in life, for the really important things in life that God calls us to focus on. And many times, most times, all the time, that those are things outside of myself, then that's how things can get changed. You look at Jesus' disciples, and they also had to go through this learning. Because if you look at Jesus' interactions with his disciples at times, I get a sense they were pretty competitive and passionate individuals as well. And the two that really stuck out to me are John and James, the brothers. They were called sons of thunder. They were called sons of thunder because they were known for their anger and their passion and their competitiveness. And you see where when they start out, they don't know how to direct it in a positive way, but eventually Jesus gets them to direct it in a way that helps them then go out and actually change the world with the good news of Christ. And I'd like to read to you some verses here from Luke 9. Okay, and this is Jesus interacting with these disciples, and especially James and John, trying to help them direct their passions in a new way, in a different way. Okay, away from their selfish ambitions to something for the greater good. I read here, it says, from Luke 9, 46 to 56. It says, an argument arose among them as to which one of them was the greatest. The disciples, they were competitive. Who's going to be the greatest? Who's going to win? But Jesus, aware of their inner thoughts, took a little child, and put it by his side. And he said to them, whoever welcomes this child in my name welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. For the least among all of you is the greatest. John answered, one of the sons of thunder, John answered, Master, we saw someone casting out demons in your name, and we tried to stop him because he does not follow us, does not follow with us. But Jesus said to him, do not stop him, for whoever is not against you is for you. When the days drew near for him to be taken up, he set his face to go to Jerusalem. This is Jesus now. And Jesus sent messengers ahead of him. On their way, they entered a village of the Samaritans to make ready for him, but they did not receive him because his face was set toward Jerusalem. When his disciples, James and John, saw it, they said, Lord, do you want us to command fire to come down from heaven and consume them? Talk about competitive. But Jesus turned and rebuked them. Then they went on their way to another village. You can see the passion and the drive that Jesus saw as potential in these disciples. Now we just had to direct it in the right way. And these same disciples that couldn't get it right here were the same ones that eventually used that drive and passion to change the world. They started to focus on the important things. And that was sharing the good news of God in the world and dealing with the things that the Spirit was calling them to deal with, and not worried about their own status and their own need to win and be number one. And that's really a good lesson for us, especially as we watch the Super Bowl this weekend. As you're watching that game, think about, how can I use my passions, or where am I using my passions for changing the world? Am I using my competitive nature for good, or is it something that destroys relationships or hurts the people around me, or hurts my own life? I think that's a question we all have to ask ourselves at some point. Are we using the passions that God has given us? And we all have them, folks. You have them, I have them. And they're all different. Your passion may be, for politics, or it may be sports, or it may be music. Whatever it is, are we using it to build up as God calls us to do through the Spirit, or is it being used to tear down? And I can tell you in my own life, I've learned that when God gets a hold of me and something excites me or gets in my mind, and I get that competitive spirit flowing, and it's for a good thing, it's amazing what God can do through me, and especially if I combine with others, if I work with others, to continue to do God's work in the world today, just like those original disciples were called to do and learned how to do through the love that Christ had for them. So ask yourself, how are you doing with your competitive spirit? How are you doing with your passions? Are we focusing on the right things, the important things, or are we just using them for ourselves? My prayer is that, we would all continue to come to see the important things in life, the things that really make a difference, the ways that God really wants to use us to make a difference and a change in the world, and that we would use our passions and our spirit through the help of the Spirit to do those things in our lives. Let us pray. Good and gracious God, we give you thanks for this day, for the many blessings that you bestow upon us in life. We give you thanks for our passions, those things that get us going. And we ask that you would help us to direct those towards the important things in life. We're reminded of your words that when we seek your kingdom first, all other things will be added unto us. Help us, dear Lord, to use the gifts and the passions you have given us for work in your kingdom. Help us to join together with our passions to change the world, to make a difference in the world today, just like those original disciples did. Lead us and guide us so that we may continue to build up and not tear down. In your holy and wonderful name we pray. Amen. All right, folks, have a great weekend. Enjoy that Super Bowl, enjoy that game, have some fun and be safe. But I leave you with go Bucks and go Browns.